This video I'm going to call something along the lines of bad females or badass females or bad bitches. You know, bitches in the terms of a bitch is a female dog. So I don't get censored or tagged or whatever it is. But that's what the word bitch means. It's not the other way around. Female dog name was invented first. And literally, when you say dog, you know, as a individual term, a dog is a male dog. And a bitch is a female dog. The breed, or the species, dogs, canines, that's plural. So, a friend of mine asked me to make this post about some of the best I've seen in the past. And, you know, nothing intended for legal purposes. This is all history. Some of these go way, way back. In fact, they were probably around before a lot of people watching this were born. That's how old these stories are. And I guess it comes from, you know, sometimes we don't give credit to the female species of the breed, female pit bulls. They're just as important in breeding aspects. For me, they're more important. And there were a lot of them. And even back in my day, people preferred seeing females. You know, we called them mean and nasty and tenacious and rough. You know, not taking anything away from the males, because there's ultimately more males that were competed with than females. But a lot of the females have a tendency to stand out. And these are what I consider top females in my day, and ones that I seen with my own two eyes. And you wanted me to include one of mine or two of mine or whatever. I'm going to include one just for historical purposes. And even her, I don't give her a lot of credit. It's Miss Rowdy, which was Big Red Sister. But I have a list here I'm going to go through. First one is Peaches, a female named Peaches. Teaser's Peaches, if you want to look her up. She was heavy Carver bred, had all the Carver dogs, you know, the later Carver dogs, and some of the past ones, you know. I think Satch is in her pedigree, and, you know, some with the Ed Crenshaw stuff. I used to know her pedigree off the top of my head, but she was a heavy Carver bred female. And they later went on and bred her to Heinzel's Bummy, the breeding to Peaches and Bummy, which that would make a Heinzel Carver cross, was bred to Smith & Walton's Reuben. The breeding of Bummy to Peaches produced Mija. Mija was bred to Reuben, and that's what produced that litter of Grand Champion Badger, Champion Fox, Taylor, Lumpy. So the breeding was just as good as the performance of Peaches. She was rough, smart. She had a style of getting in the armpit, you know. And then anybody from the past will know some dogs will do that. They'll put them down, and then they'll turn in circles to keep them off balance, while the other female is laid out, you know, on her side, and they just turn in a circle. She was that way. Just a smart, rough, hard mouth. She won 3 shows. Her shortest one was 13 minutes. And she beat Wilkerson and Powell's Becky. It's all that, you know, Hank Little Boots stuff with some other stuff in there. I think that one went 26 minutes. Then she beat another female. I forgot her name. She was about a 38, 39 pound dog. And even though she was a good female, and Teaser busted on the scene with her, and he also won with one of her sons named Smokey, I think his name was. I rolled against Smokey. My dog quit. Smokey later went on to win in a little under an hour, I think. He was a good dog. Good dog. Smokey would have been Mija's brother. And for her last show, she was going into Tony Z's Sadie. Sadie was a white bred bitch, that white blood, at 41 pounds. So he came up in weight, which is not wise to do. And Peaches was so amiable and all that, you know, you really didn't have to crate her up and all that. But he had her in a motel room, and she never really settled down, you know. So kind of amateur mistakes, or just confidence, you know, that she was badass and she could beat anybody. And I would, my opinion, at her weight, 38, 39, it would be hard pressed to beat her. But Sadie was a good female too, and at 41, it was a little bit too much. 1 hour 17, Peaches didn't quit. She didn't survive afterwards. But just seeing a female like that early on in my career, you know, it leaves an impression on you. And, you know, you have that kind of thought, well, maybe she's unbeatable, man. You know, and if he did her a 4th time, you know, my feeling was, well, he's going to do her a 5th time if she wins. He's going to take her all the way to Grand Champion. She was good enough to be able to do that, but circumstances the way they were, she ended up losing her 4th. But just a tough, solid bitch. She kind of had that if you see pictures of Miss Pooh Red or Julie or Morphine, you know, those kind of dogs, that kind of a round head, you know, half drop ears, and or full drop, I forget, but kind of that round face and the muzzle that comes out, you know, not to a point, more rectangular, you know, not too short, not too long. Nice teeth in her, you know, nice build, you know, leg under her. But she always stood out in my mind as one of the best females I ever seen. Badass. The next one I'm going to talk about is Millie. Now, Millie was shown on the last show I ever attended and competed in. On that show, we lost with Warhead, and then we won with Hammer. Hammer beat a reportedly 4-time winner. Warhead had previously won. He was a brother to Bratz Muda, and he had previously lost, but he got gamest in show. In this show, he wasn't right. I knew he wasn't right, and you know, one of those, maybe I should forfeit all that, but we're there, we're going to do all that we talk about, you know. And he ended up quitting against kind of a novice guy in 30 minutes, right? Hammer's next, and he's underweight because he didn't take the travel well, so he's puking. He was about 1.5 pounds underweight, going into reputed 4-time winner. And Hammer won in hour 40. Solid dog, made those screaming scratches, you know, just wouldn't give up, and he was behind for, you know, till around the hour mark, and then he started coming on, which is something I knew he would do. You know, he just showed that type in his schooling, that he would pick up the pace, or just, I'm not going to give up, you know, and I'm going to keep at it. That's what he did, and he ended up winning hour 40. Millie, on the other hand, she didn't need no time. I think part of her breeding was she was owned by Night Prowler. I didn't know nothing about her, you know. I didn't find out later till she had some of the LA Dream Team's blood, the boomerang stuff they use. And she had kind of those markings. A lot of them were white with patches on them. I don't remember if her patches were black or red. I'm colorblind, but she had patches on her, mostly white. She was going against a Pineapple Kid who was using a female they got from Boyles, Ronald Boyles. And I don't know how it was bred, but, you know, they're all well bred. Millie came out from the get-go and just took her apart, man. Cut her, bled her, just annihilate her everywhere she hit, man. Just very impressive. That only went 16 minutes, and it was like, whoo, that's a badass bitch. from the get-go, you know. Rough, strong, she had all the tools. She didn't need much defense, you know. The other female tried to get on her nose and get her out, get on her head and get her out. She just couldn't. She was too strong and too fast. Just annihilated her. I don't know whatever happened to her afterwards, but just a man, really impressed with her, you know. And you know, back in the day, you ask how they're bred, this and that. People don't really tell you. I didn't really ask, you know, but they're not forthright telling you how they're bred. And I had competed against the LA Dream Team, you know, and did good against them. And looking back now, I could have guessed that that's what she was. You know, I didn't know they had that kind of relationship because they were opposite ends of the state. But I guess they got together. Like I said, I don't know what the other side of Millie's breeding was. I forget that too. But I do know that she had LA Dream Team stuff, you know. Maybe some of that Champion Jesse stuff or you know, some of the other, they had a bunch of champions, you know, and winners, a bunch of winners, you know. It's all in my book, my latest book, Dogs, Dogmen, and Bloodlines, and they're featured in there. That's several, man. Several champions, a few four-time winners, you know, winners, losers, game, quit, all that you go through. Just very competitive guys and very active, you know. One of the most active in the whole West Coast, actually. You know, that team headed by the captain. But Millie was a good representative of that stuff, man. She was rough as hell. Chyna, and some of these, I've probably spoken about them. I'm sure I have in other, you know, discussions, other videos, other chats, other whatever, posts in my group, you know. But I kind of wanted to lump them all together so that they're all in one video, so that you can go through and just kind of have all the females together, you know. I think it's a good topic, and I'm glad my friend came up with it, you know. Chyna was one of the earliest matches I saw, and impressed me with her conditioning, you know. TL had her in good, what I consider good shape, right? I forget her weight. It was something like 37, 38, maybe 40, maybe 42. I forget, but she was what you would call old family red nose stuff. She was red nose, had the ear crop that a lot of dogs at the time were. It was popular to do that with them, you know. And you could probably look her pedigree up too. Williams Chyna, you know, Chena. And it's kind of ironic, you know, at the time Williams had a lot of Heinzel dogs, but Chyna wasn't a Heinzel dog, and her opponent was. So he was going against a Heinzel female, and her name was Tanya, I think. Moko's Tanya, right? It's reported. Well, again, Chyna came out, went to the front legs. Little bit after it started, you hear snap, took out one wheel, right? Tanya never made a peep, you know, just took it, kept on trying, traded, swapped it out, all that. A little bit later, snap, the other wheels took out, you know. And they're still going at it with Tanya not giving up, and Chyna just poured it on her, you know. After a little bit of that, a little while later, Tanya's handler just picked her up, and she made a courtesy scratch on them screwed up legs, and Chyna ended up winning very impressively. Again, took 16 minutes. From the time it started to the time it ended, 2 wheels out, 16 minutes. Very impressive. Chyna went on to win a second show. I forget her opponent's name there, and that one went close to an hour, and she won. One on roughness, one on gameness, but she didn't survive after that. Took too much damage. They tried like hell to save her, but she just, but again, shows the heart along with the roughness that some of these females are known for. Just mean, nasty, not give up. So I always have a spot in my heart for a female like Chyna. Seeing something that young, you know, me being that young, you know, and I'm talking probably early 20s, you know. I had been in the game for a while, but I hadn't seen dogs of that caliber or a show of that caliber up to then, except maybe, I'm not sure if that was before or after Champion Brutus and Freebie and Champion Buck, but, you know, impressed with the conditioning, impressed with the athleticism, the mouth, all that stuff. Just a real nice female. Williams Chyna. Daisy, the next one is Daisy, and she was a, you would call maybe a Jeep Eli female, you know. And this was in another country. Daisy was a first time up dog, beautifully built, beautiful condition, solid black almost, you know. She was on an 11 show card. It was the same card that a dog named Salt won. He was in contention for that show. I was a judge for that show, for Best in Show and Gamest in Show and all that, Best Handler and all that. And Salt was one of the first few. His show was one of the first few, within the first 3 or 4, I forget which one, out of 11 shows, right? And Daisy, it was her first time up. Salt won in 44 minutes, took both shoulders out. In fact, I couldn't tell that he had done that much damage. I don't know if it was kind of dark, or I couldn't see that good, or whatever, or I was too far away, or whatever. But when they started scratching, the dog's legs fell out. His shoulders were messed up. He couldn't stand. So Salt won in 44 minutes. Then they had some other ones. Daisy was the last show of the card, because you do males first and then females. So she was the last of the females. She's going into a 2-time winner, and this is Daisy's first time up. And the other female, I forget who had her, but she was like Mayday bred, that kind of, along those lines. Red nose or black nose, I forget, but she was mostly red. They come out, both of them hit hard, bam, and they're going to work. Daisy hit the shoulders. Mayday female got on her muzzle, stayed there. Daisy was fast and strong, just kept putting it to her. And after a while, she started to overwhelm that red bitch, and started hitting her shoulders, you know, and throat, this and that. She got her down at one time, and she got in between her back legs with the, you know, the other female splayed out on her back, and Daisy's in between her legs, and her body's going in the opposite direction, you know. And just went to town on her, man. Just almost evil looking, you know. Just rough. The handler called it at 22 minutes, you know. And Danny Burton was with us there, and several other guys, you know. Raul was there, and different people, you know, from the past. And when they called it and declared Daisy the winner, Danny Burton speaks up and goes, "You ain't gonna beat that bitch," you know. She's just real impressive. And of course, she ended up getting Best in Show. I was one of the judges. There was a couple other. Usually you have 3 that judge, just so it'll be kind of fair. There was no question that Daisy deserved it, so she got Best in Show. Missing part of her lip, you know, and it was a good bitch on her. She just didn't have after a few minutes, she didn't have an answer for Daisy's speed, strength, and mouth, you know. Daisy would go on to have a second show, and as good as her mouth was, and as strong as she was, and as fast as she was, she's the one that got cut down. Muzzle, shoulders, you know, started to where it's looking bad for her, you know. But, and this is why I talk about, or at least used to talk about, gameness all the time. That's what made the difference. Daisy would not quit. Scream in the corner, fall down, get up, go over, just that. When you see females like that, or any dog like that, it's real hard to stop them. You could just, in your mind, you're saying they ain't gonna quit. They're either gonna win, or you're gonna pick them up. one of the two. And that's what happened. The other female quit, and Daisy won around an hour mark. She took a beating for most of that show. And she was a quality female. It's just the other female had more mouth, you know. But again, that heart is what made the difference. She just would not quit. And she was rough enough to get her shots in and stay on her and not give up. And exhibit to the other female, I'm here, I ain't going nowhere. I'm right here. And that has a discouraging effect on some opponents. And that could very well be what happened with Daisy. Her opponent just said, well, if I can't lick you, I'm going to lick myself and give it up. And that's what she did. But nice match. Nice performance. Showed a lot of heart. And of course, in that one, Daisy got Gameston show. So she ended up being a 2-time winner. She was wrecked after that. She couldn't be done again. But she ended up winning those two. So she got Best in Show in her first and Gameston show in her second. Very impressive female. Another female related to Daisy. You know, I forget how close they were rated or how they weren't sisters, but more distant. But they could have been half sisters or cousins or aunt, niece, or whatever it was. But Khaleesi, she had won 2 short matches, both under 30 minutes, you know. Again, rough. That is just, you know. So I go down there to see her third. And while I'm there, I go a day before, and my friend's telling me, you know, give her this, feed her that, walk her out, this and that, right? So I go through the routine just like I normally would with my own dogs, you know. And, of course, you know, I'd give her the once-over. See how she acts, see how fit she is, how dried out she is, moisture, whatever, you know. Checking her. Of course, I check her mouth. All her teeth are broken. Some teeth she's missing. She ain't got no teeth. She's going for her championship. So my buddy comes home from work. What do I say? First thing I say is, she ain't got no teeth. He goes, I knew you'd check. Well, yeah, you know I'm going to check. You know, I'm going to check. You left her in my care. And you know, I'm going to go through the process like I normally would with my own dog. So I checked, yeah. And he goes, yeah, I didn't know it, but, you know, I had her in the kennel, and my wife told me she's jumping up, you know, and grabbing the kennel, and that broke all her teeth, you know, the chain link on the kennel, you know. Just probably from peeking, probably from, you know, maybe she was used to a chain and didn't like being confined or whatever it was. During some process, you know, she knocked all her teeth out, her own self, right? So we go to the show, and it's a big old 16 show convention, you know, again out of the country, and they have 2 boxes, you know, so they could trade off. So they have a show going in one, have another one going in another. One finished, they trade them out. This one finished, they trade them out, just going back and forth like that. So you had to go back and forth which dogs you want to see. Of course, my buddy had 3 dogs there, so I watched all of his, you know. First one was a female, I forgot her name, but she had beaten a champion her first time up. And this this one, she was going against a grand champion for her second time up. She was some of that old Santander blood, old Klaus stuff, you know, Klaus Zeke stuff, you know, rough as hell. She won in 26 minutes. Then another female was on that same card. I mentioned Mr. Gray handled Baja, you know, her first time up, she beats a champion. 32 minutes, right? So later on down the line, Khaleesi's up next. She's a little small for that weight. Yeah, the female visibly bigger, you know, not like huge, but just a bigger female. I'm not sure how she was bred. Another red female. They cut them loose, and the other female stronger and bigger, but Khaleesi is faster and quicker, more tenacious, you know. You could see that want in her, just going to town. So they're swapping it out, back and forth. No turns or out of holes for a while. It goes half hour, an hour, hour and a half. They still keep going. Khaleesi's just doing her thing. The other bitch is trying to do her thing, getting her shots in, hitting Khaleesi's shoulders, hitting the muzzle. Khaleesi's getting the legs, getting in the throat, shoulders, sometimes on the head to keep her out, spinning, moving, wrestling. They're rolling around. Good show. Finally, they call a turn on the other female, and the scratching starts, right? So they have her up. She comes across. Khaleesi's up next. She comes across. Next time up, female kind of hesitates a little bit and comes across. Khaleesi's up. She goes. And we've talked about it before, several of us, you know, on 78 Patreon and different chats. You know, there's times when you need to get a handle. An experienced handler sees that, knows it, and there's opportunities to do it, but you have to be quick enough and smooth enough and smart enough to know when and how, but you got to get it done, right? So it's getting down to the wire like that. They come over in one corner and they're balled up, and a lot of times dogs will get balled up like that, you know, and they'll come out a hole because they're trying to get something. They're kind of twisted around and kind of, you know, off balance, just moving. This is all happening real quick. As they're pairing and trying to get their hole, they're both out of hole. So Khaleesi's handler, smooth as shit, slick, and with great timing, snatches her up. When he did it, I said, "You won, man. That's it." And he said it too. I won. Got her. They take the other female over. It's her scratch. Release your dog. She comes out of the corner a few steps, goes to the side like they'll do sometimes, and along the side, and stops and gets counted out. 2 hours and 17 minutes. Hell of a battle. Khaleesi won her championship. Nice. I didn't see her first two, but I can only imagine what she did to those first two opponents, because if she had had mouth, it wouldn't have went no 217 if she had her teeth, you know. She just, that was a detriment to her, and it cost her. But again, you have that heart, and heart is important, but you got to have skills too. That mouth is part of it. You got to have that. She had it, which maybe what helped her is because she didn't have teeth, but maybe what helped her is the pressure she was putting on the female. Because at one point they were, Khaleesi was laid out, and she had the female's foot and ankle in her mouth. Just wouldn't quit. The other female, you know, was sitting down on top of her and starts licking her. You know, I think I mentioned that before. And that's where that tenacity and heart comes into play. Khaleesi wasn't giving up, even though she's laid out. She was the one that was laid out. And then when you start scratching and they get a respite, and you can throw some water on them and rub them down and talk to them and get them going, they'll spark up and they get that back again. And that's kind of what Khaleesi did, you know. She would get herself back into it because of the bond she had with her handler, and that little respite helped her, you know. And that's what happened. But very impressive win. Like I said, she just badass female. She made champion that day, and I was proud of her and proud of my buddy. Poita, another one that, and I'm mentioning these, you know, they're bred similar, but you know, when you have a solid breeding program for years and years, you're going to produce some excellent individuals. It's like that champion Chamuco dog, you know. He's probably the best male I've seen outside of the country. Of all the dogs I've seen outside of the country, I would put him in the top. He was kind of a red boy, little gator cross like that. Badass dog, you know. And this next female, Poita, was like that. And there's really not, but, and the point I was making is these three females that I'm naming here, Daisy, Khaleesi, Poita, they were related. But that's just a testament to the breeder theirself. It's kind of like, you know, the white dogs, you know. If you saw the dogs out of Steve's yard compared to maybe someone else's yard that had white dogs, Steve produced a lot of the good ones, you know, or had something to do with them, you know. Champion Bullshit, Champion Alien, Jap, you know, I'm not sure if he bred Elrod, But Mighty Dog, Skeeter, they had a couple of champion females and stuff, So along the lines in that, you produce several good dogs, And I didn't see Alien, but I would put Bullshit and Mighty Dog and Elrod are some of the best white dogs I saw, So that's the same with these dogs. And, I'm wearing this hat for a reason. These were bred by the same breeder, and they were just top-notch dogs. So Poita is, again, a relative of Daisy and Khaleesi, and there's not much to say about it because it happened so fast, except that it was Poita's first time up. She's going into a champion, right? And Poita comes out, boom, goes to the bottom jaw. This is going to be short and sweet because in 9 minutes, she broke that jaw and it was over. Very impressive win. So the reason I included her, not just because she's badass, but because that's the range that you see with dogs back in the day. Could be dogs bred similar, could be dogs from the same yard, could be dogs from whatever bloodline, but you see them win impressively short. You see them win with middle time, an hour or so, or you see them lose game, or you see them go some distance. So in this little scenario, we have Daisy winning in 22 minutes, and then winning in an hour. And we have Khaleesi, who won 2 short ones, and I saw her win in 2 hours and 17 minutes. And then you have Poita winning in 9 minutes. And it's not rare. So it runs the gamut in that respect. That's why I brought those 3 up. Along with the fact that they were very impressive females. Very impressive. Anybody who saw them liked them. And couldn't help but be impressed by them. Which leads me to Miss Rowdy. She was my female. And I don't mention her a lot, she played a good role in some of my breedings. I matched her 1 time because, I had her and Big Red. And the thing with them is I schooled them a lot. I did a lot with them. I used them a lot because I wanted to make sure they were solid enough to be foundation dogs. So they had several schooling on them. And when I mean several, I mean 15 or 20 times, I just did them a lot, every opportunity I had. I want them to be consistent. I want them to be solid. And then at that, at that time in my life, I didn't, you got a dog, you want to roll them? Yeah, we'll do it, right? So Miss Rowdy was well over 4 years old when I hooked her up. And this is the way it came about. I went into Smith & Walton. I lost with that little Ronnie dog to what would become Grand Champion Badger, right? I wanted to get Bobby back, and he had a weight open at 42 pounds. And had, I forget the guy's name, but he had, somebody else was doing her, condition handler. And I didn't have a 42-pound female, but I had a 40-pound female, which was Miss Rowdy. But I had confidence in her because she looked good in her rolls, and she had good mouth, and she was smart and strong and all that stuff. But what led me to just say, hey man, I might as well just hook her up, was her last roll. Put her on another very good dog man's female, and Miss Rowdy took out one of her legs in 2 minutes. Just snap, done. 2 minutes. So, might as well do her, right? The weight wasn't close, but it was close enough for me. It's 2 pounds difference. So I brought Miss Rowdy in closer to 40 than 42. The other female was right on weight at 42. And before the show, Bobby comes up to me and says, this female, her name was Annie. This female, she's finished 5 females in 20 minutes or less, Okay, Bobby, whatever. I didn't care. I never did, And, some people that works on it makes you scared or makes you mishandle or makes you think nervous. I didn't care, man. My sole intent was I got to get him back. So I put her through as good a keep as I could. And I was just kind of coming into my own of learning how to condition better, So I had the feed right. I had the work was pretty good, And she was in good shape. And he told me, that Annie was a throat specialist, Okay. Well, she was. They come out, that's where she hit. Bam, she hit Miss Rowdy right in the throat. Choking her. this and that. All Miss Rowdy could do was hold her with her feet and tuck her head down and try and pull her out. And it's going like that for a while. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Finally, around the 20-minute mark, Miss Rowdy got her out, and it pissed her off so much that she just went to town. And she had a way of getting real high on the shoulder, almost on the neck, you know. And what it does is it cuts off the blood to their head. And you can see that when the dog's eyes kind of roll, you know. You see more white than not, you know. And it makes them panic because, you know, in the throat. And Miss Rowdy, I'm not going to say she didn't panic a little bit, you know. She kind of like, whoa, I better get this bitch out of her. And it took her a while to get her out. But with Annie, it wasn't so much in the throat that was cutting off her air. It was on the side more that was cutting off her blood flow to her brain. So it affected her, and you could see it affect her. You could see her tail go down a little bit, and her ears perk up, like, you know, what do I do about this? And she would hit both sides, shake and move. Annie was bigger, noticeably, but Miss Rowdy just went to town. Just put on a display like, I got to do this, or I can't let her back into my throat, you know. So again, Annie turns, we start handling, they both make a scratch, and I'm going to be honest with you, Annie came over slow, Miss Rowdy went over slow. Annie came over slow, Miss Rowdy went over slow, you know. It's kind of, you know, both of them were having trouble breathing, right? But Miss Rowdy, I think in her mind said, I got to get her, you know, I got to get her. And she did, and it got down to Annie's time up, boom, she takes a count. Bobby couldn't believe it, you know. And I could see how she could finish 5 females in 20 minutes because she was rough as hell and big, right? But Miss Rowdy had a lot of experience and a lot of style and a lot of tenacity too. And that's what took her over the edge. And we ended up beating Annie in 37 minutes, you know. That was a good show. I was proud. I was glad to get Bobby back. That's that competitive spirit. We were friends and rivals, and I don't think we ever went into each other after that. So we split a win each. You know, he got me when I was young. I got him later when I learned better, and we left it at that. You know, his thing always is, if you win, you know, the winner pays for dinner. So when I lost to him with Ronnie, he paid for dinner. When I beat him with Miss Rowdy, I paid for it. You know, it's kind of something with him, and I just kept it going with him at least, you know. And I was just so happy to win, man. And of course, I bred Miss Rowdy. You know, her first litter, she only had 2 pups. She had more pups, but most of them died. There were only 2 left. One male, I forget his name, he quit in schooling. The other one was Howler. He became a 2-time winner, 1-time loser. He won his first show under Tito and the local boys. I let them borrow him, and he finished his opponent in like 47 minutes or something like that. It took him out. I did him his second time. He was on the same show that Bill won his championship, so it was sire and offspring on the same show. I had bred Bill to Miss Rowdy. That's what produced Howler. And he beat a real game bully son dog from El Mexicano, conditioned and handled by Cat and Company. A little dog named Red. He was red with a kind of a black mass. I could tell he was rough, but you know, again, Howler had a lot of experience, and he ended up beating him in an hour 15. What happened is he opened up the inside of his armpit shoulder, and just, it was a leaker that they couldn't get stopped, so they stopped it. And he tried to make a courtesy scratch. He just fell down looking forward, tried to get, he just couldn't get up. He was done, you know. And he didn't make it either, but and then Howler went on to lose in 2 hours and 8 minutes after that. And then we bred Miss Rowdy to Ninja, bronze champion Ninja. And several dogs came out of that. I had Lucy. There was, in fact, that breeding was made twice. I bred her to Ninja when I had him at my house, sent him back to Don, and then I sent Miss Rowdy to Don after that, and he repeated the breeding. And that breeding that Don made produced a little female named Bugsy. There were some other ones too, but Bugsy, he gave her to me. She was heavily undershot. I had Lucy, her sister from the first litter, so I ended up selling her to Rancherita Kennels. They bred her to Little Gator, produced champion Cyclone and Burrito was a 2-time winner, I think. And then there was Ninja and Little Bugsy. That Little Bugsy was a descendant of the Chamuco dog I mentioned earlier, Champion Chamuco. They bred her to Little Gator, and it was descendants of those dogs bred to Bean that made Chamuco. So, you know, that's what happens. These people all get involved. You got all these dogmens, and there's dogs going back and forth, and you meet relatives of them, and you go into them, and they breed and this and that. Just, you know, over you have two countries, you know, Baja California and California. You have all these dogs exchanging back and forth and competing against each other, you know, which is interesting. And I sent her to Don Brote. Those were the only times she was bred, you know. I was going to breed her again, but she showed there was some green stuff coming out of her vagina. So I took her to the vet, and he told me she has a uterine infection. It messed up the walls of her uterus. She can't have pups no more. And it wasn't later till I realized, even though he was a good vet, some vets are against pit bulls. They don't even want them to be bred. So later on, I don't know if it's true or not, but I thought maybe he just didn't want me to breed her. He didn't want any more pit bulls, you know, kind of that thing, you know. He didn't make an excuse and kill her and like that. I've known or heard of vets doing that, you know. It's incurable. They got something, you better put them down, this and that. People sad and all that, and they just go along with it. Some people didn't, and they end up curing their dog, maybe taking it to another vet or whatever it is, and the dog survived. So he told me she couldn't have pups no more. So I just brought her home. I was just going to let her live her life out. She was about 7 years old at that time. And I was just going to and I mentioned it to Don Brote, and he said, send her over here. I'll get her bred, you know. I'll take her to my vet, see what he says. So, and I had given her antibiotics and all that stuff that he prescribed, you know, but he told me don't breed her. She won't have pups, you know. Her walls, lining of her uterus won't allow the pups to stick to it, the eggs to stick to it. Okay. So I mentioned it to Don Brote, and he said, send her over here, Richard. I'll get her bred. Okay. So I did. I took her to the vet. She had a uterine infection still, you know, and this was within a few days of me bringing her home, you know. It was like I brought her home. I called him later that day or the next day. He told me send her, so within a day or two, she's on her way to his house, you know. So he takes her to her vet, says, yeah, she's got scar tissue from the infection, this and that, but she can be bred. So he repeated the breeding with Ninja, you know. He bred her. I just let him keep her, you know. So sometimes you'll see Schoolboy's Miss Rowdy. Sometimes you'll see Brot's Miss Rowdy. It's the same female. She was mine first, and it was a gift to him, you know, basically. Next female I have is China Rose. Now she's, you know, a lot of people have heard about her. She was a 4-time winner, owned by Dave, you know, Dave E. And I think with all of her, she was handling conditioned by the Pineapple Kid, you know. And I'm pretty sure her first show was at my house. Can't remember who she went to. I know I saw her, and she was out of Chinaman, bred to a Niggerino bred bitch. So very good breeding practice. She was a tough female. I think she had heart. I don't know what anybody's opinion is. She didn't never show signs of quitting, nothing like that. But when you have a rough dog like that, you know, people always questioned her gameness. And she had it all, you know. She was rough. She'd go front end, back end. Whatever she needed to do. And she wasn't dumb. She was smart. She was a little female. I think she was 33 or 34, something like that. She wasn't very big. I just remember in my mind, I got pictures of her, you know, like I do. I still see my yard. I still see my box. I still see the dogs around there and the people around. I can still have those visions in my mind, you know, and that's how I see China Rose, you know. Nice little female, rough as hell, you know, had a real good career. She won 3 out here, and then she ended up going back east into Manzi-Pain, and she won in over an hour over there. So not only was she impressive at home, she proved she could travel 3,000 miles and win there. I didn't see it, you know. I remember reading the report and talking about it, but I don't know too much about it. I just know that Mr. Payne was top dog man. Champion Scooter Reds and Black Annie and a lot of those dogs. You know, he had some Chinaman stuff too, but he mostly had kind of a Bolio Klaus stuff. You know, Ford's Manchu stuff and that kind of crosses. You know, STP's Buck stuff and all that. But top dog, man. Anybody that knew him, you know, I never met him, but anybody that knew him, you know, those are the reports I get. Just a classy guy, very knowledgeable, low key. But if you were in the game back then, you probably heard about him. And he had a great record, great dogs. And China Rose ended up beating him. I think it was an hour 17 or hour something. You know, impressive win. She was another little tough little female. You know, I don't have vivid memories, you know, of her, because there were so many, you know, and sometimes you don't find out who these dogs are till later, you know, and find out their record later in having conversations with these different people, right? But I'm pretty sure her first one was at my spot. I think she beat Cutter. I think that's what it was, because he was at my place a lot. You know, there's dogs I have memories of. I don't even remember their names or who handled them, how they were bred, but I have visions of them in my box. Two very game females that Cat and Company had. You know, I don't know their names or I don't remember their breedings. Just game as hell. Those falling down scratches, you know. Two little males that were going stifle to stifle, you know. And they were probably in the high 30s. Again, I don't remember who handled them or how they were bred. None of that stuff. But I remember Cutter was there. And he comes over to me and they're swapping it out. They're stifle to stifle like that, you know. And he goes, you know, schoolboy, he goes, see those two males right there? I said, yeah, I'm watching them. He goes, that's about how Benny Bob and Bully Son was. I said, really? He goes, yeah, it's about like that. Oh, cool, okay. Like that. So you have these visions. That's what I have of memories of China Rose. But I know she was a top female. And I know her owner was a solid dog, man. Dave. These two, I gotta mention them. I think the female that China Rose beat was Cutter's Pugs, I think. And I do have some notes here. So I think she beat Pug at my house. She beat, and then she won her second one way up north, a different state. And then her third one was a couple hours from my spot. And then she went back east to beat Manzi Payne. So I did have some info on her I got later on. But I have to mention these two females. One of them I didn't see. And one of them I only saw on video. But they have to be mentioned because most anybody that knows just a little bit of history of the breed has heard of these two females. Ken Allen's double Grand Champion Tornado, and Abraham's Grand Champion Queen of Hearts. Now Tornado was, of course, a 10-time winner. I never saw her in person, but I saw a video of her, so I have some idea of what she was like, you know. And it's never the same on video, you know, as it is watching it in real life. The sounds ain't the same, the emotions ain't the same, the clarity of what's going on ain't the same. But it was a 3-show card, Tito going into Ken Allen. And Tito had El Mexicano's champion Blondie. She beat, I think it was a daughter of Tornado. So she won. And then he had his champion Ninja, who ended up becoming a 4-time winner. And I refereed his 2-hour and 20-minute loss, very game loss to Vinny's Pete. And in this one, Ninja beat Robert Jr. So I'm assuming he was a son of Robert T. Some people get that mixed up. I've seen it online where it's mixed up, where it says Ninja beat Robert T. He didn't beat Robert T. He beat Robert Jr. Robert T. lost his 12 or 13 match later on to a different champion. And so Ninja beat Robert Jr. on that show. And then I think it was a daughter of Blondie, if I'm not mistaken, that Tito was using against Tornado. Well, Tornado come out 100 miles an hour, and even on the video you could hear the pop when she hit her in the chest. just overwhelmed her. Just one-sided. Very impressive. Just aggressive. Too fast, too smart, too strong. Had no answer for her. But Tito told me later on they were standing there, and during the conversation, you know, Tito's handling, Ken Allen's handling, and Ken goes, you know, yeah, I got her hooked up in a couple of weeks, you know, Tornado. He goes, really? He goes, you ain't even finished this one yet. You know, these are still going. He said, you ain't got nothing for this bitch, you know, which proved true. 17 minutes she was done. And it was just something that Tito had. It was part of the card. He had to have something to put against her. That was the only female he had near or at Tornado's weight, so he did it. But I could see how Tornado could do that against quality, more experienced females, I'll say. Because Tito, his dogs were quality. I don't mean to say that. You know, he was a top guy, good handler, conditioner. He had several very good dogs, you know. He had a little female named, I forget her name. Anyway, she beat Danny Burton, little 30-pound females. I seen him with the little Finley's Bro bred female, you know, that stuff from the So-So Boys, you know. Beat a 2-time winner her first time out, you know, the little Bow bred bitch, nice little female. He had used Grand Champion Fritz. He had Outlaw Junior. He beat TL's Philo in almost 2 hours with that one. He, like I said, he used Grand Champion Fritz. He had Champion Ninja, was a 4-time winner, lost his last. He had another one, 6-time winner. I forgot that dog's name. You know, up and down wherever. He was a traveler. He'd go anywhere, do any. Fought guys. He beat Henry B's champion, Mr. Rogers, you know, from the famous Cherokee Chief Dirty Mary litter, you know. He beat Rostaman a little bit with champion Blondie. He beat, you know, used some dogs from Die Hard, you know. Had a little dog. He beat Bacher. He came out to my house one time with a dog named Rascal, and Tito beat him with a dog. I think she was from Die Hard. He was from Die Hard, named Captain Kidd, but Tito handled the condition. Him, you know, he had some hard losses. He, like me, lost to Grand Champion, Cat and Company's Grand Champion, Jinx. And, you know, he won and lost against Smith and Walton, and he beat and lost to Steve, and he beat and lost to the LA Dream Team, just back and forth, and just his competition. But yeah, I was really impressed with Tornado on that video, you know. And then, of course, Grand Champion Queen of Hearts, she had a great record, 8-time winner. She beat champions and 4-time winners and experienced dogs. She even fought a female named Blondie. She fought her twice, and Blondie was a smaller dog. It's interesting, if you read the report, Blondie was about a 34-pound, you know, dog. And Queen of Hearts is a 38-pound dog. And, you know, Blondie lost to her the first time. The guys weren't impressed. They thought maybe something, this and that, whatever it was, the weight or whatever it was. But Blondie was a smaller female. If you read the second match report, it says Blondie comes out and she's putting it to Queen of Hearts, you know, till Queen of Hearts gets mad and puts it back on her. But, and I think the 2 shows that Blondie lost, they were within minutes of each other, you know. They only went 30 minutes, somewhere around there, right? But it's just interesting that happened the way that it happened. You think Queen of Hearts was a monster, and she was, no doubt. She beat the 4-time winner, Pepper, and I've had people tell me, including twins, that Pepper was a badass bitch herself. And Queen of Hearts blew through her. She beat a female from the famous, you know, Grand Champion Sandman, later on Champion Sandman and Champion Toot and Lou, and all these, several good dogs in that breeding, you know. Queen of Hearts beat one of them. Pepper was a 4-time winner. She beat another Lady Beast and 3-time winner and all this stuff. So very impressive. And I bring her up because I had an opportunity way early on to buy her, you know, and I just passed on it. So that's one of those things you could say, you know, I regret, because she wasn't famous at the time, you know, even though she had great credentials. You know, she's off of Bombi Jr. and Reddy. You know, the Bolillo Boomerang Cross was very successful. I just wanted a pure, you know, the reason I did, because I wanted a straight Boomerang female. I didn't want a crossed one. even though I'd had Boyle's dog before, and I was going through Boyle's to get dogs like that, a few of them, you know. I just didn't, I just passed on it, you know. At that time, they only wanted $1,000 for her, which was a lot of money for me. You know, I'm a working guy, family and all that. But still, a dog of that caliber, I don't know what Abraham's paid for, and it's none of my business, but she was that type where you could probably take her anywhere into anything. It would be hard-pressed to beat her. And that doesn't come from me because I'm a Boyle's fan. It comes from me because that's what other people told me about her, you know. And yeah, there was also talk. There's stories going around that her and Tornado were going to get together or didn't, or this, whatever it is. You know, I don't know. You know, people have asked me before. I don't know, but what I do is I look at dogs' records. You know, and the one thing I look at is their weights. So I don't even know if they were competing, what the age was. You know, somebody said one time, how come Jeep didn't go into Chinaman? Well, because Jeep was retired before Chinaman ever started his career. You know, and they really weren't the same size dog. Chinaman was like 44 to 46, and Jeep was a 42, 43. So people get this stuff in their head, you know. And I don't know how they would have done it with Tornado and Queen of Hearts, because Tornado was a 38, 39, and Queen of Hearts was a 38, 39 pound female. Tornado was a 42, 44 pound female. So there's quite a bit weight discrepancy. You would either have to have, even if they met in the middle, you would have to have, you know, Queen of Hearts coming up to 40 or 41, and Tornado coming down to 40 or 41, something like that. You know, I don't know if either party would ever done that, but that's what I look at. That's what I question. The weights were kind of way off, you know. And there's examples of, you know, like Zevo being a 40-pound dog. He went up 44 to fight Greaser. That wasn't really planned in that way. It's just that they forfeited to Zevo, or a convention in Mexico didn't come off. So, you know, there was an opportunity for Adams and Crutchfield to go into Greaser, who was a 4-time winner, but the weight was 44, and, you know, Zevo had a short keep on him, this and that. He came up in weight, whatever, and he ended up winning in almost 2 hours, you know. Things like that have happened. But I don't know the circumstances. But I just had to mention those two great females for what little connection I had to them, which is minute. I saw Tornado on video, and I had an opportunity one time to buy one of the greatest females in history in Queen of Hearts. So I hope I did justice to these little females, you know. They stick in my mind to this day, even though these things happened decades and decades ago. Some of this stuff goes back over 40 years now, you know. And I just wanted to do them a little justice, give them a little respect and admiration and recognition, you know. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks for your support. We'll converse in the comments and ask questions, whatever. But thanks again. I got more vids coming up. Another interview pretty soon. Maybe this weekend, maybe Monday, but I'll have it done. But once again, thanks for all you do.